Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness. Business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramona, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona, and I'm so happy to have you join us today. This podcast is dedicated to exploring the idea of we're using our work and our lives with a servant's heart to make a difference. Wouldn't you guys like to make a difference? I know I try to every day. And we created this show to motivate you, inspire you, and educate you, the audience, to make an impact in your world. And I say your world because let's start there, and then as it grows, maybe the big world will join you along. My guest today, he's become a brother from another mother. I know I say that a lot on this, but we've really connected. Our energies are just together. But he's truly a servant's heart, and the way he's helping people and supporting them, you're going to want to listen today and probably take some notes. But while you're listening to him today, I want you to think of how you're going to serve yourself and serve others today, and what impact you create today. Again, over and over, the word today is the key word there. We'll say, yeah, I love it, Steve. I'm going to do it today. And then a month goes by and you haven't done it. We'll still do it, but don't let 4 weeks go by. How many people could you impact and change their lives by doing some service for others? And today's episode is proudly sponsored by an incredible partner, Pantheon Alliance. Imagine being part of an exclusive community of high-income, successful business owners and entrepreneurs from very diverse industries. Together, they're serving and building a thought leader platform to impact and change the world. If that's something you'd be interested in and learn more about the community, reach out to me and I'll get you all the information about Pantheon Alliance. With that being said, a gentleman goes from corporate, higher education, healthcare, IT to coaching, but he does it with a servant's heart with a ton of faith behind him. I want to welcome to the show, Darren. Darren, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Steve. Glad to be here.
I'm going to start off. I don't usually do this, but with you, I know we have this strong bond. Why is faith so important to you?
It's a great question. Faith is it's really my foundation, to be honest with you. I was, when I came to faith, and I'll just tell my story about how I came to faith in Christ. I was, a year before I accepted Christ, I was depressed and suicidal. I was going to take my life. That was, I was living in my mother's basement suite, and every day I had a rope down there, and every day I said, this is going to be the day. This is the day I'm going to take my life. But I started having these dreams, Steve. I started dreaming that I would get shot, and every time I got shot, I'd get back up. And I felt like I was really being shot. And then in the dreams, I started seeing angels in these dreams. And I said, what is this? And I didn't even know, at that time, I had gone to church and, when I was a kid and things like that, but I didn't know what was happening. And so maybe about 3 months later, I got a job, and there was a guy. Actually, that was about 6 months later. I got a job, and there was a guy there, and he just was different. He just carried himself different. He just had a certain way about him, and everyone was talking about this individual. They were talking negatively about him, and he thinks he's all this and all that, and he's so much into his faith, and it just made me curious to know more about this individual. And so him and I struck up a conversation. And we had one thing in common. We both grew up without a father in the home. And so then he started telling me about faith and started, sharing faith. And he said, we're having this Bible study. Would you like to come? And I said, sure. So I went. He gave me a Bible. And I'm telling you, this Bible was huge, Steve. It was about like this big, about like that. He gave me this Bible, and I opened it up. and I opened it up to a scripture in Matthew where Jesus is talking, Matthew 6:24-34. And Jesus is speaking, and he basically says, don't worry about your life, about what you'll eat, about what you'll drink, about your body, what you'll wear. And as I'm reading this, Stephen, this is no lie. God be my witness. I've heard a voice speak to me. And I look around and I thought, man, I must be going crazy. Something is not right. I must be going crazy. But it was actually God speaking to me. And so I close it and I open it again. And then, I hear the voice again. And this is the red letters, the words in red, but that were spoken by Jesus. And, that was my introduction. At that time, I was looking at different faiths. I was really curious about faith at the time. But this was real to me when I heard that voice. And then my friend that gave me the Bible, he said, hey, would you like to come to my house? I'd like to share more about faith and answer any questions that you have. And so I did. I went to his house and we spoke for about 3 hours. And he said, would you like to give your life to Christ? Would you like to accept Christ as Lord? And I said, well, I'm not ready for all of that, And so he said, okay, well, you don't have to do it with me. Just go and you can do this on your own. All you have to do is ask him to come into your heart, ask him to become a part of your life, repent of your sins, ask him for forgiveness of your sins, and he will come and make his dwelling in you. And so that next day, I knelt down beside my bed and asked Christ to come into my heart, repented of my sins. And, I've had some bumps along the way, but couldn't have done it without him. So that's sort of a story about my faith.
That's powerful story. I'm getting chills right now. And you know what I'm thinking as you're talking, Darren? There's always pivotal points in our life where there's a decision to be made. You could tell this guy, I'm not coming to your house. I'm going away. Who knows what you have? Maybe you wouldn't be here on this world. From a business standpoint, and that's a life story that's amazing. So you got this background, higher education, healthcare, IT, insurance. You're just all this great stuff. How's that helped you in your coaching program?
Yeah, it's been a tremendous help in my coaching program. I think all of the experiences that I learned in my work, just doing my work as a project manager. I've been a project manager now in IT, various different projects, like you said, healthcare, insurance, higher education. I've been doing that for about 15 years. And this might date me a little bit. I've been in IT for 30 years. That's how long I've been doing IT stuff, 30 years. And so, you have a lot of experiences. I learned really how to lead as a project manager and earlier in my career as well. I've had some failures, and through the failures, I've learned. So I mentioned before about depression. So I got my first management job, and just got something in my throat here. I got my first.
I just gonna say real quick, by the way, I'm 63, so you can't outdate me. Keep going.
There we go. Yeah. So when this was when I was first new in my career, I got a management position. And I was only 24 years old, and I didn't do well, Steve, to be honest with you. I struggled. I didn't know how to ask for help. And management is really a communication job. And, so that was my first thing in management, and I just didn't do well, and ended up actually in a mental hospital at that time, and learned a lot from that experience. And now it's hard to believe that I was that person that I was 25, 30 years ago, but I learned a lot about leadership in that moment. I learned that you have to ask for help, and you have to have good support around you. And so I have a team around me now. I have people around me that support me. I have accountability. I have mentors. I have different things that have helped me to become the leader and the coach that I've become today.
Yeah, your background is incredible. Of course, I didn't know all this. That's why I love doing podcasts. What you've come from, like you said, you look in the mirror today, 20 years ago, it's a completely different person. But guess what? If you can do it, people in the audience can do it as well, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. That's
Yeah.
correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's go talk about some fun stuff. You earned a team award in 2022. What thing contributed to that success, and why do you think you got that award?
Yeah. So I have a, so that's for the project management community of practice. We grew that community of practice from 0 to 150 members, and I was one of the founding members. Um, and when we started, we said we just want to add value. We want to make a difference in project management at the institution, at the university that I work at. And so myself and two other members formed the team. But the first thing that we did is we established, that leadership team and drafted what's called a term of reference. And that term of reference became sort of the guiding principles of this community of practice. And the document, it clarifies the purpose and sort of the boundaries of what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. So that was really sort of the foundation of the community of practice. Then we held monthly leadership meetings to plan events and hold each other accountable as a leadership team, making sure that we, fulfilled our commitments. The key realization there, though, Steve, is that the community wasn't about us. It was about serving our members and adding value to them and helping them to become, the project managers, or if they were kind of moving into that field, to become the project managers that they wanted to be. And when people have value added to them, they're going to want more and more and more of that value. So by focusing on their needs, we had training, we have a mentorship program, we have networking opportunities. By offering all of this value to our members, we ensure that our members would excel in their roles. And so in 2022, as you mentioned, we received the team award that fosters sort of that collaborative mindset, and which highlighted tangible impacts to our efforts as well. So that was a great achievement. And yeah, so we were, thrilled to be able to be a part of that, this growth in our project management community practice.
Individual awards are great. We're human, we like them. But to me, team awards, community awards are so powerful. And community, serving, accountability, words that you mentioned in your story about this award are what leaders should be about, should be part of their DNA. So let me ask you, when you hear the word servant leadership, what thoughts come to your head?
Wow. It's a fantastic question, and I don't want to give you just a canned answer. I really want to think this one through, because it's so multifaceted, servant leadership. Maybe I can give you an example. Maybe I can. I'm a storyteller, so I like to tell stories to kind of iterate a point. I've been a coach for I'd say about six or so years now. But one of my most impactful moments as a coach is I worked with a young man who I helped to discover his true purpose in life. Now, he was in a job that didn't align with his passions. And through asking questions like, what do you want? And where do you see yourself in 10 years? He realized that his current path was a dead end. And so that was a way as a coach that I was able to serve this individual. And this coaching session was transformative for him, because he decided to go back to school and to pursue something that he was genuinely passionate about. This experience, it reinforced my approach in leadership development. Real change happens when people gain clarity on their purpose and have the courage to pursue it. And so I was able to help this young man to see that, because I could see his life. And he actually attended the Bible study, one of the Bible studies that I lead. And I could tell that he was not aligned to his purpose. So I said, if I could just work with this young man. And so I was able to ask him those questions. And as I did that, he was able to discover his purpose. He's actually almost finished with school now. Started working with him about a year ago. He's going to graduate. I think the beginning of next year, he'll graduate. And so to me, that's what servant leadership is all about. It's about adding value to people and helping them to become the person that God created them to be.
That's a perfect answer. Let's talk about, you said asking questions. I love that, because every leader that's a good leader Well, I mean, leader's a good leader. Every leader asks questions. Talk about that tool and how somebody become a non-leader to a leader doing that.
Yeah, questions, I would say curiosity and questions
Yes.
are the foundation of leadership. I mean, if you don't if you don't ask questions, you don't get really far in life. Um, so, how important are questions? I'm a naturally curious person. I've gone through the Strength Finders personality assessment, and one of my top 10 strengths is curiosity. That's one of my strengths, and I've I've really grown as a leader because one of the things that I like to do if I get on a call, like it could be like a mastermind call with other leaders, but I always try to ask at least one question whenever I'm around other leaders. I always ask at least one question. And I found that by doing that, I always grow as a leader by asking questions. So you don't really grow as a leader if you don't ask questions.
Yep.
Questions are pivotal for you to become, a better leader. Curiosity, that is really the gateway to personal growth, I believe, is asking questions.
Yeah, I love that because also too, as a leader, you need to learn.
That's
You'll
right.
learn nothing if you don't ask questions.
That's correct.
And if you
That's
talk
correct.
all the time, you will push other leaders away. Talk about mentorship. How
Yeah.
important is it for people?
Extremely important. And as I mentioned my story from the beginning, I didn't have mentors around me when I went through that, and ended up in the mental hospital. So mentorship is pivotal. If you want to get anywhere, I read a lot. I read a lot of books. I listen to podcasts. I look at a lot of leadership YouTube videos. I learn a lot from those things. But really, my key learning is from mentors, because mentors, you can have conversations. You can you can meet with a mentor. They give you some action to take. You take that action. You go back and say, I did this and that, and then the mentor will say, well, did you try this as well? So it's a very, you know it's that accountability, and you're trying to get where that mentor is as well. So maybe you have a mentor in business. I have mentors in business. I have spiritual mentors. I have different mentors around me because I'm trying to get to where they are. And so if you want to get to where someone is, get a mentor. And I highly, highly, highly recommend mentors. You cannot get very far on your own. You really can't, Steve.
Nope. Success. All the successful people will tell you. Mark Cuban talks about his mentors when he was, before he sold that multi-billion-dollar sale that he had. Let's talk about your books. I love that you got ebooks. Again, you're becoming the mentor because now you're educating people, which is what happens with a leader. It comes full circle, right? You got mentored to be a leader. Now here you are as a leader. And I felt the same way. Talk about the books, name of the title, what they're all about.
Yeah, so I have two ebooks. One is called The Three Pillars of Learning. And it's how to learn through education, conversation, and observation. And these it provides valuable tools, insights, and practical tools. And really what I do in this book is I show you how to learn through education. And there could be formal education, it could be continuing learning, and it could also be just self-study. And then I also talk about learning through conversations. What I love about podcasts is I can listen into a podcast, a conversation, and I can learn something. So your viewers or your listeners are learning something today by listening or viewing this podcast. So I talk about the power of conversation, how to learn through conversation. And then the last thing that I talk about is observation. I mentioned in the book Kobe Bryant, and Kobe Bryant was a keen observer of Michael Jordan. So he took Michael Jordan's moves. He was mentored by Michael Jordan. And so I talk about the power of observation as well. And so you will learn these tools and these skills as you read this book, The Three Pillars of Learning. So that's the first one I'll mention. I'm also an AI consultant. So I've written a book on AI. I'm a technology guy, so I've kind of dabbled into AI, and I'm an AI consultant as well. And this book is called Innovate with AI, a small business guide to growth and efficiency. And the book is really about how to use AI to increase your productivity as a business owner. You can also use it. I have some sample prompts in the book that you can use. So maybe you are even a plumber, and you can use AI in so many different fields. Leadership, if you are a CEO of an organization, or if you want to create a bot, that increases your productivity. So this AI book will help you to do that. And so, yeah, those are the two books that I have that are ebooks. I have other books, but these are the ones that that I think your audience would be interested in.
Okay, I'm sold. I got 2 new books I'm going to read this weekend. I'm going to access them because you're right. AI, we won't get it. We ran out of time here. I'm going to say this in front of the audience. I'd like to bring you back for part 2. Maybe we dive into AI and leadership because that's something that's big controversy right now. And because you're in the middle of it. I'm not in the middle of it, but I'm kind of on the fringe seeing all this happening. We don't want to take the human experience away and all that. We could talk about that. And it's a good, valid point. But I'm definitely getting those books. I'm super excited. So I've got a fun question to end all this, and thank you for being such a blessing and such an educator for this audience and for me as well. That's why I love hosting. I get to learn as well. So we'll put that in the 3 pillars of living: be a host and learn about things, which I've learned so much over the last year or 2 years. So you've got a reservation at a restaurant. There's a table of 4. Of course, you're going to be in one chair. In the other 3 chairs, dead or alive, who would you invite? Why would they be invited? And what food would you order?
Boy, great question. The other 3 chairs, who would I invite? Yeah, I would invite, well, there's, okay, 3 people that I would invite. I would invite Abraham Lincoln. I would invite Martin Luther King Jr. Wow. Who else would I invite? And I have so many
That's the tough
people
part.
that I want to meet. Those are the 2. But then I would say an interesting person. I would invite Harriet Tubman. That would be the 3rd person.
And I don't know Harriet Tubman, so I'm sure some people in the audience don't either. Tell us about her.
Yeah, so Harriet Tubman was she was a slave in I guess it was in 1800s. She was a slave. And they called her the Black Moses. And the reason being is because she was able to free, I can't remember how many slaves, but she was able to free a number of slaves and took them into Canada. And so it was called, you've probably heard of the Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Harriet Tubman was responsible for that, and she would free the slaves. And the reason that I would have Harriet Tubman there is because of her courage. Now, she didn't just go once and free a few slaves. She went multiple times to free multiple slaves. I don't know how many times, but it was over a dozen of times that she went back to free other slaves. So her courage is what I love about her when I read about Harriet Tubman. You want me to mention any about the others and why I want to meet with them?
Yeah, if you want. But Harriet Tubman, I think there's a movie or maybe multiple movies.
There's
I'm going
multiple
to check
movies
it.
about her.
Yeah, I'm going to check that out because talk about a leader.
Yeah.
How many times did we go once and she went multiple times?
That's right.
I mean, even if she just went once, she's awesome. She's still a leader.
That's right.
But keep going back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Enough said.
Yeah. I'll mention one more thing about Harriet Tubman. That's a kind of a funny thing. So she had a handgun because a lot of the slaves would want to go back, and she knew that if they went back, it would jeopardize the whole mission. So she had a handgun, and she said, "No, you're not going back. If you go back, you're not going to make it." And I thought, wow. But she really wanted their freedom, and if she didn't do that, it would have jeopardized their freedom. So that was the thing. Yeah, Harriet Tubman is a powerful, powerful leader.
So what would these people be eating?
I don't know. It doesn't in the reading. I think she had food that she would provide for them, but they would actually, part of the Underground Railroad is they would stay in homes as they went up. So let's say they started in I don't know, Maryland or something, to go up to Canada. there were different homes that they would stay in throughout. So I'm sure they got fed that way, actually.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
So you got your 3 people. So you're sitting at the table. The waiter comes in. What is, and this is your order, not their order, but what would you order for food for the table?
Wow.
Anything goes.
What would I order for food? Well, it would definitely be something that I like. I think Harriet Tubman and probably Abraham Lincoln, and maybe all 3 of these would like some good Southern cooking. I would order some, I'd order some.
Well, I'm thinking mustard greens to help you out there.
Yeah, let's see, some mustard greens.
Yeah.
Maybe some fried chicken. I would have some. Oh wow, maybe So we're gonna eat a lot of different things. This is a
Southern food. Oh,
it's all Southern food. Maybe some pork chops on there, rice and peas. So just a big kind of Southern cooked meal. And these are all people from, with the exception of maybe Abraham Lincoln, but I'm sure he could appreciate Southern food. So yeah, so I would. That's what I would do. That's what I would have. That's what I would.
Every time I ask this question, when it's good food, I get hungry. I don't know why I do it, but I love the answer. And it's a beautiful answer.
Yeah.
Darren, you're unbelievable. You're out there as a servant. Your faith is big. We've connected that way. I thank you so much for being such an incredible guest. And you did educate, inspire, and motivate my audience. And you did it for me. So I truly appreciate that. So people listening are going, okay, I want to talk to Darren. How can they contact you or support you?
Yeah, so they can. I have a website. My website is dmancoaching.com. That's dmancoaching.com. Or they can send me an email. And my email is darrenmancoaching@gmail.com. darrenmancoaching@gmail.com. And those are the ways they can get in touch with me.
And you are the man. So that's a perfect website for you. You are the man. Perfect. And our audience, I'm going to get the ebooks on there, as well as this information on the show notes. So if you want to access the ebooks, I'll get them on there. I know I'm going to access them. We get off this show, Darren's going to get those to me because I'm excited to read them. And I love reading off my iPad, so it's even better. Also, to audience, do me a favor and subscribe to this podcast. That's my ask. And it's not because I get millions of subscribers. I think I've got 9,000, and that's great. But here's why. It's easy to find this podcast again. One, if you want to share it with family or friends, or if you just want to listen to it again. Darren told you he listens to podcasts to learn. Well, sometimes you have to read a book or listen to a podcast or whatever multiple times to really understand what the message is all about in those areas of media. So do that. And the other thing is comment on the YouTube channel. You'll see the comment there. And if it's comments for Darren, I will get them to him. If you can't figure out how to find them, reach out to me through the podcast and I'll connect you with them. But also to critique the podcast. Me and Darren know this show's all about you, the audience, not about us. We're here to facilitate education, motivation, inspiration. So if there's something that you think I need to do different, I'd love to hear it. And I've made changes doing that already from people's input from listening to this podcast. And as always, me and Darren want to thank you guys so much for watching or listening to this podcast. We'll see you on the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.